All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. I'm once again joined by my two co-hosts over here, Jack Eden and Trevor Kaufman. We're joined by Jack via iPhone, but it's still just as crisp as ever. This podcast episode, we're going to talk about really strictly only NBA playoffs because that's this kind of time. That's our time right now. It's NBA or nothing else. You know, sure, we have baseball, but what is there to talk about in baseball right now? I mean, not that much. Trevor's laughing right now. They're a mess. Anyway, we're here to talk about the NBA playoffs.
I wasn't even sure people still watch baseball, but okay.
They pulled Clayton Kershaw after 7 perfect innings because why let him get a perfect game, right? Yeah, it's a mess. Anyway, we're here to talk about the NBA playoffs and some playoff series. And we're filming this, before the play-ins are completely done. So we don't know who the 8 seeds are going to be just yet at this time. But we will talk about that as soon as we know. We're going to start off by talking about just the playoff series in the Western Conference. So, we kind of kick this off by just going through these series here, starting with the 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies versus the 7 seed Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'll be honest, I didn't see Minnesota being LA. I don't think any of us did. I thought it was possible, but I just didn't see it. And I mean, hey, they got it done. Credit to them. And they're fired up right now. I think personally, they're going to give Memphis a pretty big challenge. Memphis is a really good team. They're young, though. That's the thing. Both of these teams are young and unproven in the playoffs. Memphis went to the playoffs last year. They played Utah, right? But, they didn't. What did they lose in 5? They lost in 5.
They did.
Yeah, they did lose in 5. And Donovan Mitchell, I think, was out for the game they won. So it's just like, they don't have that much experience. Ja's a lot better. The team's a lot better. But will they cruise through the Timberwolves? I don't really think so. I think this series probably goes 6 games, maybe even 7 games. I'd go 6. I'd go Memphis in 6 if I had to put my money on it. But, I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7. I mean, Ja's going to be the star. They're going to have guys step up, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane. But look, the T-Wolves are decent. Pat Bev's going to be loud. The whole team's going to be chirpy. They all follow Pat Bev's mentality. You can see they all follow along. Cat in particular, you see him following that like chirpy, like talk the talk mentality, right? Like they do that. That's how they're playing this year. And we'll see if they can back it up. I don't think they'll win the series, but they'll give him some trouble. I mean, Anthony Edwards is playing really well. He dropped 30 points in the play-in game, something around there. Like that's really he's a young up and coming player, like maybe even a up and coming star. They have some nice players. They don't have a bench, right? They don't have many players off their bench, right? Especially because they got like Pat Bev starts, right? I mean, who do they have? They have Malik Beasley, right? They have McDaniels, right? Yeah, I mean that's about it. That's all.
Nas Reed plays a little bit here and there.
Yeah, so they don't have much, but their starters can carry them, I think, to a few wins. And the Minnesota crowd is going to be fired up for a series. Both of the fan bases are. So I think it remains close. I think it's a 6-game series, but I don't know what you guys think. Trevor or Jack, when do you want to go ahead?
I just want to say congratulations to the NBA champion Minnesota Timberwolves on that play-in win the other day. Congrats to them.
Hey, listen, I got something to say about that.
I know you do. I mean, I just thought it was personally, I thought it was laughable to see their celebration.
Whoa.
It's great. It's great to see like that passion for a game. This is a franchise that hasn't been to the playoffs in however many years. I think the last time was when Jimmy Butler was there and they were an 8 seed and didn't really stand a chance there. So great for them. It's a 1-game play-in. You win at home. It's exciting. I get that, but freaking jumping up on the what is it, on the table?
Yeah,
right
like the
there,
table,
on the scores table or whatever.
Throwing your jersey into the crowd, running around, crying. Like
they made the playoffs twice in 18 years.
It was the main instigator was Patrick Beverly, who I don't like to begin with in the first place. But
I hate him.
Yeah, I just thought that was laughable. If anyone saw the "We Are the Champions" playing in the background from the TNT,
that was really funny.
That was good. As far as the series goes, I think it's going to be 2 high-flying, fast-paced young teams, and I'm excited for that. I just don't know. It's funny, I sit here, neither team really has experience, but then I think back, at least Memphis has been in a series over the last year, and you can tell that they've significantly improved this year. And I feel like while they're still relatively unproven, I think Minnesota is also unproven. And I think because of that, I feel much more confident with Memphis. Unlike Ryan, I feel like this is going to be a quicker series. I have Memphis in 5 games. And just because I think They have a deeper team, and their role players are better than what you get in Minnesota. But I will say Minnesota can make this a series if, Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell and Cat all step up. But it mainly comes down to guard play come postseason time. So it's going to mainly have to be Edwards going for 30 and Russell getting 20 and distributing the ball and getting other guys involved. But I have Memphis.
He played well, though. I agree with Jack's prediction. I like the Grizzlies in 5 as well. I think we're just kind of riding the Minnesota high from that play-in game. It was an emotional win for the team. It was an emotional win for the city. It was an emotional win for everybody involved, with that organization. And I'm a little disappointed in you, Jack. I would have expected your comments on their celebration to be, something out of Ryan's mouth, right? Like I expect this from Ryan, but from you,
wow,
who understands what a starving NBA franchise is in the Phoenix Suns, where we were so bad for so long. Sometimes you got to celebrate the little victories. And I thought JJ Redick had a great quote. He goes, the city cared, the fans cared, everyone cared. Why are we laughing at them for celebrating like that? And I just think about Minnesota, Minneapolis, a city that's been through a lot over the last couple of years, away from basketball, just the city in general. And I think this was a moment of celebration for the fans. And I think we should appreciate that, especially as a small market fan base like ourselves in the Phoenix Suns, right? Like where we don't have the big city bias of like New York, LA, Chicago, right? I think we should celebrate the little victories, and especially for a team like Minnesota, who hasn't won a playoff series in 18 years and has only been to the playoffs twice in 18 years. I think that's something that you should celebrate. Yeah, maybe they took it a little too far, but that was honestly mainly Pat Bev, right? Like the rest of the team wasn't crying and running around and, throwing their jersey in the crowd. I think for Pat Bev, that game was just more emotional because it was against his team, his former team that basically just gave up on him. And I think for him, that just meant a lot to beat them. And of course the fans were happy because it was a playoff win basically. And to the series, this is an interesting series. And I thought Shaq on TNT had a great point. I think Charles Barkley echoed it. When has Memphis really felt pressure or adversity, right? Like when has this team really felt like the hunted, as I like to say a lot? Memphis seems like a team that's just been playing with house money all year. Nobody expected them to be this good. Same thing in their playoff series last year. They were just playing with house money. Now they're going to feel pressure. Now they're going to feel adversity as the favorite. And they're playing a confident, cocky young team in Minnesota. And I'm curious to see how the Grizzlies handle it. I think, like Jack said, I think they're going to handle it well. I think Ja had a really good quote today. He said he wants all the smoke. He's not nervous, right? He wants to talk. He's going to be ready. And I think the Grizzlies are going to be ready. And I think they're very well coached. And I think they have a couple of nice veteran leaders. Steven Adams, he has a lot of playoff experience, is the main one. So for me, I like the Grizzlies a lot. I think Minnesota is a very undisciplined basketball team. They're not very deep. And they're going to need great performances from Ant, Cat, and D'Angelo Russell, at least 4 out of the 7 games. And I just don't think they're going to get that. I think they need 2 of them to be great in every game to win this series. So for me, I think Memphis is the deeper, more disciplined team, and they have a little bit of playoff experience, and I'm going to go with the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
that was kind of long. My fault.
No, don't worry about it. I mean, that's fair. I mean, we can move on from the series. I just want to say, like, for me, the only reason I have it going 6 really, or even 7 is like, it's just, I need to see the Grizzlies, as the favored team, as the 2 seed, a young team. I just don't know how they're going to come out. Like, so it could very well be in 5, but, I went 6 because, I just think that I don't know how to feel about them, as a young team in the playoffs as the front running team. So exactly what I said last year with the Suns. Yes, I know. It's the same story.
One last point on the celebration part, Trevor. The Phoenix Suns, when they won the Western Conference Finals, keep in mind, they were not running around the Staples Center.
Yes, they were
celebrating and jumping on the tables and stuff like that.
Jack,
that was a little much.
Trevor was at the airport.
That got me.
Jack, I was at the airport at 2 a.m. getting videos with 20,000 other fans acting like we had won the championship when we didn't win the championship. Now, it was the Western Conference Finals. That's a big deal. But
I'm talking about it from, you can celebrate in the locker room. You can celebrate when you get home.
I was at the airport at 2 a.m. when they got
jumping
back.
on a table and stuff like that. That's a little much to me.
I think that's more just Pat Bev being a very, very emotional player and him beating his former team. I think that was mainly Pat Bev. I didn't see the rest of the team
But yeah,
Yeah,
I think
got up on the
yeah.
table. I don't know what else.
I don't know. I think it's a very emotional win for the
Yeah,
city
it's
because
fine.
it was just memeable. That's all I have to say.
it was a
Yes.
little memeable for us, but I think if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, I think you enjoyed that. I think you enjoyed
Like
that
if-
game a lot.
This might be silly if the Cavs did this tonight and they if he jumps up on the table, I'm gonna be like, look, the guy's never done it. He's 22. He's never done it before. Like, hey, like I get it. I respect it.
He's
But,
happy.
Yeah, it might be a little. It's a little ridiculous.
I just hope Minnesota gets swept in the first round.
I
hope
guys,
they send.
you guys hate Pat Bev. Wow.
Well,
All
how
right,
could
look.
I not? But anyways.
Look, but yeah, with that, we can move on to the other series we got here. And this one, I think, is fairly straightforward. I actually think this might be less entertaining than the Memphis and Minnesota series, and that's Golden State and Denver. I'll let one of you go ahead since I started the other series. I don't know if, Jack, you want to give your quick thoughts on this series. Is it going to be close?
Yeah, this is the series that I'm most excited to watch, actually.
Wow.
What?
I think,
No.
I mean, I don't know any updates with Steph Curry's health. I don't know if either of you.
He's
He's
gonna
not
give
playing
it
tomorrow.
I thought he was going to
Curry's
give it a
playing
go.
tomorrow.
I thought he was going to give it a go in game one.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of Luka.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure Steph's going to give it a go in game one, is the understanding.
Okay. I just think here's my thing is that I think Golden State's been shaky this year. Now, granted, they've only had Steph, Clay, and Draymond on the court together for like 9 games or something.
Yeah, not
like
a
that.
lot, yeah.
But they've had their ups and downs this year. They've had their injuries. They've had their issues. But I think, I don't know, like Jokic is such a matchup problem. And I'm thinking, you're playing Jokic versus a Kevon Looney. That makes me think that you're going to have to go small and put Draymond on him at some point, which, again, is a matchup I'd love to see. I'd love to see Jokic go against Draymond. I'd love to see what Steph and Clay can do against their guards. I just think Denver is a very sneaky team that can fly under the radar but can steal a game or two. And I think, last year they struggled against Portland, but they ended up getting it done. And I think they have to be the team at the bottom of this at the bottom of this Western Conference standings that I'm the most worried about, if that made sense.
Okay.
But I still think Golden State wins the series. I would not be surprised if it goes to 6 games and they win it in Denver.
Is that your guess? 6?
I have a sneaky suspicion that Denver is going to take one of the first 2 in Golden State and put some pressure on them. So that's
Okay.
I got Golden State in 6.
Okay. Trevor?
Look, I think health is going to be a big factor in this series, right? Steph Curry's banged up. Andrew Wiggins has been a little banged up recently. Obviously Clay is coming back from injuries, but he looks good. Draymond's been injured. He looks good though too. And I think the other big problem for Golden State is going to be Nikola Jokic, because who's going to guard him? I mean, Draymond Green will get physical with him, yes. But I think Jokic is just a very crafty player, and I think he's able to score against multiple different coverages, whether a guy's bigger, smaller, quicker. And he's also an excellent playmaker, which I think is another big plus just for him and the Nuggets personally. However, I just don't think Denver has enough around Jokic to beat Golden State, right? Like, they don't have Michael Porter. There's no signs that Jamal Murray's going to be playing in this series. I just don't think Denver has enough around Nikola Jokic to get it done. I kind of agree with what Jack said. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver stole one of the first 2 in Golden State and put some pressure on them while Steph is kind of getting his legs back under him. But at the end of the day, Golden State's the deeper, better, more playoff experienced team, if that even matters in this series. I love that they're going to have the big 3 together. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that. And it's also going to be fun because they got a nice mix of young players, right? Jordan Poole's an up-and-coming player in this league. I think Kuminga's a nice young player that they have. Gary Payton will get some minutes in this series as well. So I think it's a good mix of veterans at the top, and then you got nice young role players. But yeah, like I said, Denver does not have enough to beat Golden State 4 out of 7 games. Jokic will go crazy in about 2 and maybe steal 1 or 2, but I'm going to go Warriors in 5. I just don't think the Nuggets have enough around Jokic to get it done.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Warriors in 5 because that's exactly what my prediction was going to be. I do actually also agree with Jack that I think Denver will probably steal. If they don't steal it for one of the first 2, it'll be very, very tight. Like, I think they'll play them very close in the first 2 games. One, because Denver's a decent team. Two, because Steph's just coming back and the Warriors aren't playing all that well right now. We'll see how they look defensively. They either look top 5 defensively part of the year or bottom 5 defensively part of the year. So we'll see which version of the Golden State defense we see in the playoffs. I'd suspect we see the top end defense because it's playoff time, but who knows? And I really think that, Jack said this would be an interesting series. I think this would be the most interesting series in the West if Denver was healthy. If they had Jamal Murray, if they had Michael Porter Jr., they could legitimately push Golden State to 6, maybe even 7 with those two players fully healthy.
I think if they had both those players, they could win.
But yeah, maybe. Yeah. But I like Golden State more than you, so I would pick against that. But still, it would be a lot closer, right? I think then it would be really, really interesting. But unfortunately, they're not healthy. Michael Porter Jr., the back's hurt, like everyone thought it would be coming out of college with back problems. And Jamal Murray, still recovering from the ACL. But they'll give them a fight. Denver's a well-coached. They're a solid team on both ends of the floor. They'll give them some trouble, but Golden State will get past it. They'll get past them in 5. They'll drop a game, but they'll bounce back stronger. They're an experienced team, the most experienced in the NBA right now. They'll get it done in 5 games, but it'll be a fun series. Games will be close. The series will end in 5, but it'll feel closer if you watch the games, I think. I think the games will be played pretty close all the way through until maybe the last one. But those are my thoughts. I don't know if Jack, you have anything else to say on that. No? Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll see. But all right, moving on to the next Western Conference series game. We have Dallas and Utah. And just to preface this, Dallas is the 4, Utah's the 5. So game 1 will be in Dallas, but Luka will not be playing in game 1 and won't be playing in game 2 either because he has a calf strain, which is really, really unlucky because he got a tech in the second to last game of the season. Should have been suspended for the final game, but they rescinded the tech. He was able to play. And when he played, he got hurt. It was just super, super unlucky, which is tough because I think Dallas would have won this fairly handily with Luka on the court for the full series. But he's out for games 1 and 2. I don't know if that changes the winner of the series for you guys, but I don't know, Jack. Do you want to go ahead, or Trevor? Go ahead and give your thoughts on
sure. I'll take it. This is going to be maybe the best series of the entire first round in both conferences, right? I think without Luka, even though Utah has such a bad history of winning playoff series, especially when they should win playoff series,
sure.
I'm really tempted to pick Utah just because I don't think Dallas can. Look, Utah's a good team, right? They've won 49 games, and I know we like to clown on them a lot for always kind of coming up short in the playoffs, but they have a good team. They have a young borderline superstar in Donovan Mitchell. They have an experienced point guard. They have an all-star big man, and they have decent role players, right? They have guys who can get it done. They have Bogdanovich. They have Ingles. They have who's the other guy? Jordan Clarkson. So they have guys that can score. They have guys that can defend. They have a point guard. They have a scorer. They have a big man. Just for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to work. But without Luka, I'm going to go with the Jazz. And look, the fact that here's the thing, Ryan.
Wow.
The fact that they've already ruled out Luka for 2 games leads me to believe that the injury is more severe than they're leading on, right? The fact that they're not even considering trying to give him a go in the playoffs, like Steph Curry's trying to give it a go, is concerning. And that leads me to believe that he's going to be out most of this series. And if he's out all the way into games 4, 5, 6, I like Utah. I'm going to go Utah in 6, but that's me assuming that Luka won't come back till at least game 4. I don't think he's going to come back till at least game 4. Probably agree. Not even till game 5. So I'm going to go Jazz in 6. I don't think Dallas has enough offensive firepower without Luka to get the job done. I do like Jalen Brunson. I think he's a very nice guard for them. Mm-hmm. Tim Hardaway is going to have to really step up.
He's hurt as well.
He's hurt. Dorian Finney-Smith's going to have to step up. They just don't seem to have enough offensive firepower. I know they have Dinwiddie, but without Luka, I don't see it with them. I think Luka carries so much of the load for this team. So without him for at least 3 or 4 games, I'm going Utah in 6.
That's fair. I'm going to go ahead real quick and say, I agree with a lot of what you said, but I still think Dallas pulls it out. Look, I think Luka comes back in game 4, maybe even game 5. Definitely not the first 3 games. I 100% agree with that. Maybe game 4. I don't think it really matters either way, game 4 or 5. I think at the end of the day, if assuming he comes back game 4, if they're down 2-1, they're just fine. If he comes back game 5, if they're down 3-1 even, I think they could still come back. I really do. I think they could still do it. I think that Dallas is going to have to rely on that defense. They're the second best defensive rated team in the league, based off of points per game allowed, right? So they've allowed the second fewest points per game in the entire NBA. So they're a really good defensive team. That's been their strength this year, in addition to obviously Luka doing everything on the offensive end. So that's what they're going to have to rely on. And it all is going to come down to, can Brunson and Dinwiddie run enough of the offense in Luka's absence? And I think that they'll be able to do it enough. I think that they'll win a game in the first three. I think they will. I think they can win one at home. And Utah's choked leads before. If Luka comes back in game 5, right, they've choked 3-1 leads. Didn't they choke the 3-1 lead to Denver in the bubble? I believe they did, right? So they've choked leads before, and we've seen them struggle in the playoffs before. So I think if Luka comes back in game 5, I think Dallas will win this in 7, if he can come back. If he doesn't, obviously Dallas won't win this series. If Luka comes back in games 4 or 5, I have Dallas in 7. Right now, it's hard to predict. The series is going to be a lot closer than it should be. Trevor's right. This is going to be a great, great series, probably the best one in both conferences in the first round, or at least one of. But it all comes down to Dinwiddie and Brunson, and if that defense can hold up, which it should. Luka isn't a great defender. It should hold up without Luka, right? So the defense should still be near where it was, if not a little bit better, actually. So, but we'll see what happens. I think Dallas will steal this in 7, assuming Luka comes back midway through the series.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm so back and forth on this series.
It's hard.
I love Dallas before the injury, and I think, Dallas's strength is their guard play. They have Jalen Brunson's having a career year with 16 points a game. Yep. They acquired Spencer Dinwiddie, who's been their bench guy, who will now probably move into the starting lineup and has shown success in the past. He can score 20 a game. Oh, yeah. And then you look at Utah. I just feel like Utah, they're always shaky, and they've been shaky this year. But you have Donovan Mitchell on that side, and you know what he does come playoff time. Gobert's experience, he'll get you your 15 and 15 that you need every night. But outside of those two guys, I don't think this team has anything. They have Jordan Clarkson off the bench, but then no one else scares me on that team.
Fair.
So I don't know. I go back and forth. I think this is going to be a really fun series to watch. And I think if I had to predict, I think they split the first 2 games in Dallas, and they split the first 2 games in Utah. So I would not be surprised to see a 2-2 going into game 5, and it's a best of 3 series from there. Can Luka come back in time? I don't know. You saw what happened with the Kevin Durant injury a couple of years ago, coming back from a calf strain and ended up tearing his Achilles.
And to preface that, the Mavericks said they're playing long game. So the Mavericks aren't going to rush him back if they don't feel like he is fit to play at a high level. Just to preface that.
Agreed. And I think the series is going to be a lot of fun. I think it comes down to a game 7. And I think Luka's back by game 7. And in Dallas, I can't pick against the Mavericks. That's just my gut feeling. So I have the Mavs in 7 in Dallas with Luka back. That's my prediction. And if he doesn't play, then they're not going to win this series. But I think he'll come back eventually, and he'll put up a 40-point triple-double type effort come game 7 to get them through.
I'm glad Jack and I finally agree. This is good. I have someone on my side with the playoff prediction.
All right.
Here. Trevor, do you have anything else to say to kind of counter that before we
I would just be careful, boys. I just think Luka's going to be out for longer than we think, and I don't know if they can get the job. I think they'll split at home. I think they'll split in Dallas 1-1. But if Luka doesn't play either of the road games in Utah, I think they're down 3-1, and Luka comes back for game 5. Now, Ryan makes a good point. Utah likes to choke leads, right? They were up 2-0 last year against the Clippers and lost the next 4. Year before in the bubble, they were up 3-1 against Denver, lost the next 3. So Utah's a very shaky team to pick. I just don't think Dallas has enough offensive, and I get they play good defense, but Utah has guys who can score the ball, and I don't think Dallas without Luka has enough firepower to stay in this series long enough for him to come back. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, we'll see.
You guys make a good argument. It's tough to pick for Utah because they always seem to let you down. So
yeah.
But with that being said, we're gonna have to move on to the last series, which we don't even know what it is yet. It'll be our Phoenix Suns, the number 1 seed, the best team in the NBA, maybe one of the best teams of all time, if we can win a title this year, going up against either the Los Angeles Clippers or the New Orleans Pelicans.
But look, we'll move on to the East and talk about the East series. All right, and moving on from the Western Conference playoff series, we wanted to move on and talk about the Eastern Conference games, or series, I should say. And the first series being Miami and Atlanta. And this is sad to say because my Cavs could have been in this spot, but Trae Young had to dance on our home court and send us home. So it's Miami, Atlanta. And yeah, he's my new most hated player in the NBA. He has passed Salsa J. He has passed Jay Crowder for my most hated player. Trae Young is the villain for me. Anyway,
Right.
that's not what this is about. Anyway, Miami, Atlanta. Trevor, go ahead. Tell me. Look, Miami crushed them in game one. Where do you see this series going?
I see this being a competitive series. And look, we like to overreact to game ones, and I've done it too in the past. But I don't want to say Atlanta's out of this series yet. Just because we look at the game that Atlanta had Friday night against Cleveland, it was a very tough, competitive game. Turned right around. You got to play early Sunday against a well-rested, well-coached, experienced Miami Heat team. I expected Miami to win that game. If Atlanta steals game two, they're in a great spot to win this series, right? All they were hoping for is a split. That's all you could ask for is an 8 seed. Trae Young, obviously, in game one, played horrendously bad, as did the rest of the Hawks. I expect him and the rest of the team to play a lot better in game two. John Collins, I hope, will have more of an impact as the series goes on. I know he's been inserted back into the lineup. With all that being said, I have the Miami Heat in 6 games. I think this is going to be a tough series. I think it's going to be a competitive series. I think Atlanta is not an ordinary 8 seed. This is a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. This is a team that has arguably one of the best players in the NBA in Trae Young, a 2 or 3 time All-Star now, and at his young age.
Yeah.
But Miami is they're just very well coached, and they have a lot of playoff experience. And you look at guys like Jimmy Butler, guys like Kyle Lowry, guys like PJ Tucker. Those are guys that are veterans who have, won championships outside of Jimmy Butler, who's been to a finals. They are all-star caliber players. They all have different roles on the team. And most importantly, they have a lot of playoff experience. And I think this Miami team, with the home court, with guys like that, with scorers like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, I think this is a Miami Heat team that also feels a little disrespected. This is a team that was being widely overlooked to win the East as the 1 seed. And I think they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder, and I think they're going to win this series in 6 games.
I don't have much more to add there. I agree with everything that Trevor said, and I think you kind of look to last year's playoffs when Atlanta went into Philly and beat the 1 seed there. And I didn't really have a ton of faith in them in that series. But at the same time, Philly was up by 16, 17. It may have been 20 at one point in 2 or 3 of those games and ended up allowing Atlanta to get back in. So I think the series is going to be interesting because Atlanta's never a team that you can count out of a game, especially if they can get hot from 3-point shooting. They got plenty of guys in addition to Young, such as Herter, Bogdanovich. Gallinari is a solid veteran as well. That's a team that is very streaky, and if they get hot at the right time, they could be a team that causes a lot of trouble for the Miami Heat, especially who have been kind of up and down towards the end of the season this year. But I agree with Trevor. Their experience, their coaching is too much for this Atlanta team to overcome, and I also have Miami winning on the road in 6.
Look, I don't disagree with either of you too much. I don't know. Before game one, I had Miami in 7, and I probably stand by that here because I think that McMillan's going to make the proper adjustments. McMillan's one of the best coaches in the league, I think. I think that they overachieved last year, and while they underachieved this year, they started playing really good basketball at the right time. Like, they were pretty bad for most of this year, but they got hot down the stretch the last 3 weeks of the season. They started playing really good basketball, and now they're playing pretty well. They had a terrible game 1, but like Trevor said, they just played a big game on Friday. They had to turn around and play another one Sunday afternoon. I mean, that's 2 games in a day and a half. I mean, that's tough, especially 2 playoff games. So, yeah, I think it's all about the adjustments that McMillan makes, and I think he'll make the right ones. If they steal a game in Miami here, game 2, I'm even more confident this series will go 7. And honestly, at the end of the day, it comes down to who the home team is. And I think the home team in game 7, which I think it'll come down to in this series, because the Hawks are really strong at home. I think they'll win both at home. I do. They're a really good team at home. They're a different team at home. So game 7, I think it matters where it's played, and it's played in Miami. And Miami fans don't show out for a lot. Like if you turn on game one, it was like 65% full. Like it was not, it didn't feel like a playoff game. And I get they were blowing them out, but it's like what? Like if my team was blowing a team out by 30 in the playoffs, I mean, I'd stay. Well, so it was weird. But game 7, it's going to matter. The fans will show up no matter the city. And so I think game 7 in Miami, I have Miami winning the series, but it'll be close. Trae Young, as much as I hate him, he's lethal, and he won't be that bad 2 games in a row. He was 1 for 12 in game 1. He won't be this bad in game 2 or the rest of the series. He'll step up. The role players are solid. Bogdanovich is great. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier. Imagine if he was on the Bucks. Like he was denied. It was tampering, right? He couldn't go to the Bucks. Imagine if he was on the Bucks, how scary that team would be. But that's neither here nor there. But he's great for the Hawks. I think this team, I think they'll get hot at home. I think they'll win those games. And this series will go 7, but I have Miami winning it as well.
I'm definitely a little more skeptical after watching that game 1. But again, like Trevor said, they were on short rest. No one really played very well. And like you said, Atlanta's a team that plays well at home and in Cleveland. So what can you say?
Well, according to some people, Cleveland is just another home court for them. So,
I got to ask Ryan, though. Ryan, are you higher on Atlanta than we are, or are you just lower on Miami? Because you seem to think that this is still a very
I think I'm higher on Atlanta. I think I'm higher on Atlanta because look, if Miami wins the series, which I think they will, right? I think that they'll go to you know how the seeds work out. If they win, who do they play, Trevor? Who do they end up playing? Is it the 4? Okay.
Philly.
Yeah, so I think they can beat Philly. I expect them to go to the conference finals. I expect them to.
Are you saying the Hawks?
Miami.
Oh, okay.
So like I'm not low. Yeah, no, I'm
God.
not. What I'm saying is I'm not low on the Heat. It's just I think the Hawks are a good team. Like,
we'll get to that in a little bit, but the 76ers, whew. Anyways, keep going, Ryan. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Look, I can wrap this up real quick. I just wanted to say, like, I'm higher on Atlanta than you guys. I think that they just got a really deep team offensively. Defensively they're lacking, right? But if Capella comes back in games 3 or 4, either one, I mean that'll be a big boost. Okongwu is a very capable backup center. He's proved that he does what Capella does almost as well. I mean, so he's done really well in minutes without Capella. I'm just confident in this team. They're playing really well right now. McMillan's a great coach. And when you have a great coach and a superstar, I think you can win a lot of games that you otherwise couldn't or shouldn't win. So I think that'll keep them in the series, but Miami's the better overall team. And like I said, the home team's going to win game 7, I think. So that's why I have Miami in 7. But yeah, I think I'm higher on Atlanta than the two of you.
All right. Well, with that being said, we're going to probably move on to the series of the playoffs, or the series of the first round. Mm-hmm. And that is the 2-7 matchup in the East. The Brooklyn Nets, the 7 seed, the Boston Celtics, the 2 seed. We are talking about this after game 1 had already happened. Game 2 has not started in this series. Obviously, as we all saw, Jason Tatum, buzzer beater layup to give Boston the victory in game 1. I'll just start. I said Boston in 6 games, I think over text to you guys before the series started. And I'm going to stand by that. I think Boston's the better coached and the better defensive team. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can compete with Kyrie and KD on the offensive side. I think we saw that in game 1. And I like Boston's role players more than I like Brooklyn's role players. And I think that's the difference in this series. I like Marcus Smart. I like Al Horford. I thought he played very well. I think Derek White can give them decent minutes off the bench. I think Grant Williams can give them decent minutes off the bench. And if by chance Robert Williams comes back, I think he'll be a difference maker as well. But I don't think he'll play in this series. So, like I said, I'm Boston in 6. I like the home court. I like the defense. I like the coaching. But, man, is Kyrie Irving good at basketball? And, man, can Kevin Durant play better in game 2? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Look, I'm going to disagree with Trevor. Look, I don't think Boston wins this series, okay? They should have won game 1, on their home floor, a very energetic crowd. Boston's a great sports city in general. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn had just played a play-in game, albeit they did have more rest because it was the first play-in game in the 7-8 matchup. I expected them to win game 1. It was way, way, way harder than it should have been. I mean, they were up by 11 going into the fourth quarter, and Kyrie just went off. I mean, can I just say Kyrie Irving is, the guy's just unbelievable. I mean, look, I also want to say the Boston fans really, really hate him. And it's, it's funny. Like, I get the guy said he was going to stay and he left, but yeah, I don't know. He was there for like 2 years, right? He was like, what, 2.5 years, 3 years, maybe. And I don't know. They boo him like he was there for like a decade. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. Anyway, they hate him, and that got him going, I guess, because he had 38 against Boston in game one. He was absolutely sensational. I think Kyrie and KD are just too good. And I also like Brooklyn's role players. I know Trevor said that he doesn't think they're deep enough. I actually don't think Boston's deep enough. I don't think they're that deep of a team. Look, they have Daniel Tyson, Horford at center. I mean, they have, Derek White coming off the bench. Peyton Pritchard, but like that's not a guy you want to rely on in the playoffs.
I didn't say deep. I said the role players because Boston's rotation is thin. I like the guys that they play over the guys that Brooklyn plays.
That's fair. Let me just put it this way: I like Brooklyn's roster more because I think that they're a little deeper. I do. Like I get they're not that. I get like they might not be that deep, but they're not even playing LaMarcus Aldridge in the playoffs. Like he's out of the rotation, which for me makes no sense unless like you're really confident in the guys you're putting out there because he's a good player. Like even at his age, he's really solid. Like he was good for them this year. So that for one also is kind of weird for me. But I like Brooklyn's role players. Patty Mills has to be better. Like he was super cold down the stretch of the regular season, and I think he finally played better against Cleveland in the play-in game. But he's got to be good this series. He's got to do what he's paid to do, and that's hit threes. Claxton's been really good for them. I like him a lot more than Drummond. I think Drummond's terrible. Maybe I'm just a Cleveland hater, but he was really bad in Cleveland. I think he's really overrated.
I think Drummond's been good for them.
I just don't think he plays with a lot of like basketball intelligence. Like he's got the body, he's got the ability, but I don't think he plays very smart. Point is, I think Kevin Durant's going to step up. He was bad in game one. He had a decent second half, but a horrible, horrible first half. I think he steps up in the next few games here. Game two in Boston. If Brooklyn can steal it, I'm super, super confident. But even if they go down 2-0, they go back to Brooklyn. I think this series goes the distance. I have Brooklyn in 7 games. It's going to be a great series. It's going to be the best one in the East. Trevor said the series of the first round, maybe. I think Brooklyn takes it in 7. And if we can get 6 more games of those, that game one, it's going to be a great series.
For real.
This is definitely going to be the series of the playoffs, the series of the first round at least. And I really liked the Dallas-Utah series, which has been great through 2 games so far, but I love this series so much more. And I really think, you look at these 2 teams and obviously both are pretty top heavy, I would say. Brooklyn's just got more guys at the top. And also I do like their role players a little bit more than Boston's. I just think they're more experienced. You have Seth Curry, who can space the floor. He's a knockdown shooter. You have Bruce Brown, who actually gives them really good minutes and not super he doesn't put up big flashy numbers on the offensive end, but he's a great defender. He's probably their best rebounder at 6'4", 6'5", or however tall he is. And he's a playmaker too. And I saw, in the play-in game, when Cleveland went to double either KD or Kyrie off the trap, they were just dumping it off to Brown, and Brown was able to make the play in the lane with 3-on-2. So I really like that aspect from him. And I also think, guys on the bench, Dragic and Patty Mills, they just have more experienced guys than Boston does outside of their top 3. And also I'm looking at the box score right now. You're telling me you get 20 points and 15 rebounds from Al Horford, a guy who averaged 10 and 5 this season. Great game for Al Horford. They're going to need that from him, and they're going to need their role players to step up in order to win this series. But I just don't see typical production like that from him. You got a lot of points from your top 3 and Smart, Brown, and Tatum, which is what I expect. But I think when you look down the line, if you're really taking the role players of each team, if you're going to try and double and take away the top players on each team and you're going to put it in their hands, I like Brooklyn's role players just because of their experience a little bit more. As for game one, it was a great game. I was surprised looking both at the box score and kind of just throughout. It seemed like Boston was pretty much in control of that entire game until the fourth quarter, and that's when the clutch time comes in. But you look at the numbers, Brooklyn shot, I think, 11 less shots than Boston did. A lot of those from 3, and they still were only -3 from the three-point line. The biggest difference here was rebounding. Boston had significantly out-rebounded Brooklyn. But I think, Brooklyn's shot making is going to continue throughout this series, and especially once they get on their home floor. So I really like the Nets. I think it's going to be a great series. Like I said, I believe I had the Mavs and Utah series going 7. I also have this series going 7. And what it comes down to in Game 7 is the more experienced team, the guys who are greater superstars. And while I don't think they're as well coached as Boston is, I have Brooklyn on the road in 7 with monster performances from Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. But it's going to be a great series, and I think it could go either way. But I got to stick with the superstars.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think a big factor in this series for me is going to be how they officiate. And we could say that about every series, but specifically how they officiate Kevin Durant, because what I noticed with Boston's defense yesterday was they would push him around and they would body him and they would be physical with him and they would reach for the ball and they would kind of like, I don't want to say like mess with him, but they were manhandling Kevin Durant. And I think if that's how the officiating is going to be consistent over 7 games, I think that's going to affect him. At least in more. I mean, it'll affect. I think he'll eventually figure it out, but I think it'll affect him to the point where it could be the difference in a very close series. And look, you guys talk about Brooklyn's role players. I just don't understand. Like Seth Curry's nice. Seth Curry's a decent role player, and if they get Ben Simmons,
he's a really good role player.
He didn't play. I mean,
that was a big throw in that Harden trade.
He didn't play well, Trevor. I think he's coming back from an injury. He's been hurt for a while.
He hasn't played well recently, Seth Curry. He was good in their first few games, but the rest of their role players are washed up, guys who aren't great at basketball, right? Like Andre Drummond, Claxton, Patty Mills. Those guys aren't going to
give them good minutes.
Claxton gave him good minutes, but I just don't think those guys are any world beaters. And I look at Boston's role players who play significant minutes: Al Horford, Marcus Smart, and Derek White. And, other than that, they're not very deep, as I said. But I don't think either of these teams have great role players. I just think Boston's rotation is thinner, and the guys that they play are better than Brooklyn's. I think that's my point here. But
no, that's fair.
Goran Dragic is also an interesting pickup for them. He played really well in Game 1.
He
but
did play very well.
I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts.
You're saying you would take Derek White over Seth Curry?
No, I don't think they play the same role. I don't think they play the same role for their teams. I think the Brooklyn Nets are much more reliant on Seth Curry giving them production than the Boston Celtics are Derek White giving them production. Right? Because the Boston Celtics, Horford might not give them 20 and 15, but Horford's a guy that can hit threes. He's a guy that will dominate inside because he's better than the Brooklyn Nets bigs. And a guy like Marcus Smart can also give you scoring production, right? Marcus Smart's a guy that can easily give you 16 to 18 a night. He gave them 20 in Game 1. He hit, 4 of his 9 3-pointers. I think that's something he can do over the course of a 7-game series. Also,
true. Now that I look at it, Smart's probably a better comparison considering they both start. But yeah,
I think Jaylen Brown can play better than he did in Game 1, and obviously Kevin Durant can play a lot better than he did. But I think Boston's defense has a lot to do with why Kevin Durant struggled. Not as much Kevin Durant just having an off game, right? Like how many turnovers did Kevin Durant have? 6 or 7 in that game. I think Boston just had a great game plan on him and was physical with him and threw him off. And Ryan said he played better in the second half. He did. But I still think if you're Boston, you're very happy with how you executed your game plan on Kevin Durant in Game 1. But obviously it could change.
No, we can move on.
I'm going to ride with those guys at the top, though, in a 7-game series. They're going to figure it out.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe I'm just higher on Brooklyn's role players than Trevor. Because, would I take Patty Mills over Derek White? Yeah, I would. 100%. Patty Mills is a better shooter, and that's what you need on a team with superstars. You need shooters. You need veteran experience. Patty Mills is that experience. Derek White, he's been on an average first team for years. All right.
Fair enough.
Guess. Anyway.
All right, well, we'll pick this up. I'm sure we'll talk about this series throughout. But time to move on to, I think we all would agree, is a less interesting first-round series. It is the 6-seeded Chicago Bulls taking on the 3-seeded and defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks already took Game 1. Ryan or Jack, you guys can take it away. I don't think there's much to say about this series. I think it's
Jack, I'm gonna go ahead real quick, Jack, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna say, look, Milwaukee's gonna win this in 5. I think we can all agree it's gonna be 4 or 5. I'm going to say 5 games. Chicago will win 1 at home. Their best chance to make this an actual series was game 1 when Milwaukee was missing a bunch of shots. I think they had a really bad shooting night, especially in the second half. It was very strange, but Milwaukee's players stepped up and Chicago's didn't, and that's the difference right there. I mean, you had, like I think I told Trevor off the air a couple days ago after the game, I was like, look, Drew Holiday stepped up, hit a couple big shots. Brooke Lopez stepped up, hit a couple big shots. Like, they're role players. A different guy seems to step up every game in the fourth quarter. Whether that's Middleton, Holiday, Lopez, Giannis, Portis, a different guy steps up every game, and they had guys step up, and Chicago didn't. That's the difference. They have a deeper team. Giannis is obviously the best player in the series. And I actually think the biggest thing here is DeMar DeRozan is your all-star starter. Could he win MVP, midway through the year? This guy is your best player, and he's shooting 6 for 25 for Chicago. And it's like, I mean, they stand no chance if your best player is, getting stage fright in the playoffs again. Look, I don't want to say it, but DeMar DeRozan never shows up in the playoffs. Tell me the last time the guy showed up in the playoffs. Maybe he'll show up later in the series, but I'm going to keep saying it until he shows up. I mean, he was 6 for 25 in game 1. I mean, that's horrible. Like, that's really bad. And it just reminds me of the days when LeBron would just own the Raptors and DeRozan wouldn't show up. God,
shut up. I can't listen to any more of this garbage.
Look, I just keep remembering DeMar DeRozan's struggles in the playoffs. The guy's 32 years old, and he's struggling in the playoffs this badly. It's his 5th or 6th time in the playoffs, at least, and this is what he does. I don't know. Look, he's going to have to step up if they want a chance in the series. I don't think he'll step up enough, and I think they lose easily in 5.
Here, I want to jump in on that DeMar DeRozan point. Here's what I have to say on that.
It's so god awful, Jack. Please,
it's not at all. It's not at all.
Think about this. First, can we agree that Milwaukee is a pretty good defensive team? They're top 10 in the league defensively. Okay.
No doubt.
Glad that we agree on that.
Yep.
Obviously, you go into a series. What's the point? What's your focus on the defensive end? It's going to be to take their top guy away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So not only is that the focus, if you have guys like Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton on him, maybe Giannis switches on him, they have 3 great perimeter defenders on the court who can go ahead and make it difficult for a guy like DeRozan, especially with, a game that's mainly focused in the mid-range, can't necessarily stretch it out. You're going to force him to get the open looks from 3 and give him tougher looks with what he's better at. So that's what I just wanted to say that about DeRozan. I think he's been here before. I think he'll figure it out a little bit. I don't think it's going to be easy for him. I think he shoots better than 6 of 25. I see more of like a 9 of 22, 23 type of game consistently throughout the rest of the series.
Agree.
I do like the Bucks this series. I actually picked them in 4, and I think this is similar to the series that we got last year with them against Miami. Miami, a serviceable team who could come in, who could make some noise. Game 1 in that series, I believe, was very close last year, and then Milwaukee blew them out the last 3 games of the series. So I totally wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. But I wanted to point to a couple numbers for this game that gives me hope for the Chicago Bulls. First, we've talked DeRozan, your best player, goes 6 of 25. He gets 18 points, but very inefficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was very inefficient. On top of that, as a team, they shot 32% from the field and 18% from 3, 19% from 3. So they clearly did not have a good shooting game at all. And they were still in this game down about 3 points before they had to start fouling in the last 30 seconds. So on the road against the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, who have all that experience at the top. So I look to those numbers, and that gives me hope for Chicago to steal a game or so in this series. I don't know if they get it done. I just think, they don't have Lonzo Ball. Other guys who started off really hot this season have kind of tailed off a little bit. But the one silver lining I'd look to is there are 3 guys at the top, DeRozan, Vucevic, and Levine, all had pretty poor shooting games, and they were still very much so in that game.
I agree with a lot of what Jack said. And I like the point about the Miami series of last year. I thoroughly agree with that. But I do think Chicago is a little bit better than that Miami team. So I do think the Bulls will get one on their home floor. So I'll do Bulls in 5 with Ryan there.
Yep.
Ryan's point about DeMar DeRozan is I just don't understand it because he's trying to say that DeMar DeRozan doesn't show up in the playoffs by also saying LeBron owned him. Well, who did LeBron not own when he was in the Eastern Conference and went to 8 straight NBA Finals?
Tell me DeRozan's playoff reputation. What is his reputation? Come on. Let's be honest here. He's known for not showing up in the playoffs. Like
that is not his reputation.
Okay. All right.
His reputation is a guy who
we can disagree.
Is a great player, but could just never get over the hump because LeBron James was in his conference. How many other players can we say that about? A lot. Okay. So Ryan, completely wrong there about DeMar DeRozan. It was an off shooting night. Here's what I'll also say. The Bucks aren't going to shoot this poorly either. And that's why I don't think that's where I disagree with Jack a little bit, right? Like he's going to say, well, the Bulls shot very poorly, but the Bucks also shot very poorly, right? Drew Holiday, 6 of 16, Chris Middleton, 4 of 13, Pat Connaughton, 1 of 7. I think the Bucks are going to play a lot better. I think they were a little rusty coming into this game. And I think what's deflating for the Bulls is Milwaukee's not going to play this poorly again, right? Like Milwaukee's not going to shoot this poorly again. And Milwaukee's able to rely on their defense and rely on their size and their physicality. And I think that's just kind of demoralizing for the Chicago Bulls. I will say the one silver lining is Chicago, not one of their 3 big 3 showed up. I think if one of them shows up, they win this game. So you're hoping that they do. But I also think Milwaukee's big 3 is going to show up a lot more in game 2. So that's why I don't have much faith in the Bulls. But I do think going home will help them. And I also really like Alex Caruso. I think he was fantastic in this basketball game on the defensive end. He is a disruptor. He is physical. He gets steals. He was even guarding Giannis one-on-one a couple times. And I thought he did a great job on the defensive end. And I felt like he was keeping them in the game in that fourth quarter when the Bulls had no ability to score. He forced probably 3 or 4 turnovers by himself midway through that fourth quarter. So I think he is an excellent X factor for them, going forward in the future if they can build off this roster a little bit. But yeah, in terms of this series, Bucks in 5. I think DeRozan's going to play a lot better in game 2. I think Levine and Vucevic are going to struggle. I just think they're not quite as experienced in big playoff moments. And I expect Milwaukee to play a lot better on the offensive side of the ball throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add other than I agree with Jack's comparison to the Miami series. I was thinking that earlier off the air, and I was like, yeah, so Jack reminded me of that. That's a really good comparison. Their best chances in game 1, and I think they're going to coast the rest of the way. But again, I do agree with Trevor. Chicago will steal one at home.
And lastly on the Bucks, if you look at their run last year outside of the Miami series, they played Brooklyn, who they were down in that series. They were down 3-2, came back and won. They may have been down 2-1 as well.
They were down 2-0.
They were down 2-0
against Brooklyn.
Came back from 2-0 and 3-2 down. You look at against the Hawks, it was 2-2, I believe. And then you look at the Suns, they were down 2-0. So this is a team that gets better as the more games you play them in a series. So that also is another scary factor for me with the Bucks, is they'll adjust to how you're playing them, and then they'll figure you out.
I do also want to say, as moving on, Trevor and I at the beginning of the season when the Bulls made this roster, what we both said? We both said the Bulls are going to make the playoffs. They might be like a fun team, but they'll at most win one playoff series and maybe not even one. And it looks like that's going to come true this year, which I don't know. That was a pretty good prediction. I remember saying that multiple times throughout the year, both of us. So I thought that was kind of funny that it turned out this way. But it's tough when you run into the defending champs in the first round, I will admit. But look, moving on, I think, unless you guys have anything else, I don't think I do. Moving on to the final series of the Eastern Conference, and the final talking point of this episode of the podcast is a series that I think Trevor thinks is wrapped up in the 76ers
this series,
and the Toronto Raptors.
I'll be quick. You guys can get into more. This series is over. With or without Matisse Thybulle, the Toronto Raptors are overmatched. I think we completely overestimated how good this Toronto Raptors team is. And I got to give the 76ers a lot of credit. Embiid and Harden have not dominated this series. Tyrese Maxey has dominated this series. He has been fantastic. Tobias Harris has been fantastic. their defense has been really good in the first 2 games. So with or without Matisse Thybulle, I thought this would be an issue for them. Toronto is not – you can just see it. Toronto doesn't have the personnel that Philadelphia has, right? I ultimately said Sixers in 6 before the series started. I'm going to go Sixers in 5 now after seeing these first 2 games. I think they'll split on the road. But ladies and gentlemen, this series is over. Philly is coasting. Take it away.
Ian, you go ahead.
I agree. I also thought it was going to be, a Toronto was going to put up a fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if these 2 games at home in Toronto are significantly closer than the first 2 are. It'd be harder not to be. But I mean, I don't know. Phillies looked like the team that belongs there. This looks like the team that we thought that they were going to be last postseason, being the 1 seed in the East. And when you're getting production, honestly, Maxi's their second best player on this team, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think Harden is probably the most important player on the team and the most vital to their success. But Maxi's their second best player in this series, and they're just too loaded at the top for, a young, surging Toronto team. So I originally had Philly in 6. I think the next 2 games at home are going to be close, and it's going to be decided in the last few minutes of the game, whichever team can make more plays in Toronto. But I've been really impressed with Philly, and I love it because I have them in my Eastern Conference Finals.
I do as well.
So it's great to see that and kind of give me some validation on that pick. But it's going to come down to, the team that has the more stars, and that's Philly.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought Toronto would be better.
Hold on, wait, Ryan.
Yeah.
I got to interrupt. Ryan, before the series started, said Raptors in 7, just to preface
I
this.
did. And look, here's the thing. If Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., Thaddeus Young, all 3 of them, by the way, got hurt. I know Trent and Young ended up playing, but they're certainly not 100%. And Scotty Barnes wasn't able to play. They all got hurt in game 1. That's tough, especially Scotty. That's just tough. Look, that changes the series for me a little bit. I expected more fight. Van Vliet's been pretty bad outside of a hot first quarter in game 2. He's been really bad. I've been disappointed in him because he's their veteran. He's the guy who's won it all before, along with Siakam. I don't know. I expected more. I want to see them at home first. I think that I didn't realize this, but I know it now. They have no one to guard Embiid. I mean, they have a bunch of 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" guys. No one big enough to guard Embiid, at least really didn't stand a chance, right? They have to foul him so many times. It's ridiculous. So that's kind of a problem. That's a big problem. And that's why they're probably going to lose this series. I did say Toronto in 7 before the series started. Now, look, depending on how they play at home, I'm gonna be bold. You know what? They're gonna play better at home. They're gonna win both. The series goes the distance. The Sixers take it in 7, but it's gonna go the distance. Okay, look, Toronto's gonna show out at home. They got a hot home crowd. Toronto is always loud. Okay, Siakam and Van Vliet are gonna step up in Toronto, and I think Embiid. He complains all the time. Him and Harden. It's funny watching Embiid. By the way, the guy's 7 feet tall. 280 pounds. He falls over when a guard pushes him. It's funny, all of a sudden, he falls over super easily. It's just funny watching a guy like Embiid flop. I hate the Sixers. I hate the way they play. Him and Harden are just horrible to watch. It's not fun to watch at all, in my opinion. But look, they're the better team. They're going to win. But I think the series goes the distance. I have faith in Toronto. They were a hot team coming into the playoffs.
You don't believe that.
Look, they were a hot team.
You have Toronto winning in 7?
No, Philly. But it'll go to 7. Philly will win it, but it'll go to 7. All right. If it was in Toronto, maybe I'd have Toronto winning in 7. But no, it's in Philly, so that's irrelevant. But look, Toronto will play better at home. Okay, Toronto will play better at home. I really think so. I think they'll win both games. I think it'll go the distance. I hope it does because I don't like Philly. And I expected more out of Toronto, so I'm disappointed. But I still think the series can and will go 7 games. But Philly will win it, much to my
injuries hurt. I will say injuries hurt.
Injuries have been huge.
If you're gonna pick Philly in 7, you might as well take the Raptors, dude.
No, I can't do that because it's in Philly.
It's not gonna go 7 if the Raptors don't have a chance.
It's not going 7, Ryan.
Okay. All right.
You don't believe it's going 7.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's done in 4, to be honest.
I originally had
with 2 close.
I mean,
games,
look, like you
with
said
bombs.
it before the series started. I had Toronto winning the series, so like like
you can say you're wrong. You can say you're wrong. And go
I was wrong. I changed it to Philly winning it.
It's not going 7. If it goes 7 games, Toronto will win the set. It's just not going to go 7 games.
Right.
You and I both know that.
All right, whatever you say. Look, we'll see what happens. I just think that I think Toronto's a lot better than what they've played in the first 2 games. I think they're a lot better than that. They're a good team. They're 14-4 in their last 18 games to end off the regular season. I think that Van Vliet and Siakam are a lot better than what they've shown the first 2 games. And I don't think Philly will get as many free throws away from home. I think it'll be closer. I do. Maybe it doesn't go 7, but I think that it'll be closer than what it looked like in the first 2 games. Like, definitely.
That's fair. I think the biggest challenge right now, or the most competition Philly's going to have is, will they be the first team to advance, or will Golden State be the first team to advance? Because right now they're in a competition to see who will sweep their opponent first. I think
will the Phoenix Suns be
what about Milwaukee or Phoenix? Yeah, what?
Well, they're behind. They're behind a couple days. You know what I mean? Like Philly and Golden State have already played 2 games.
Well, I can assure you, Philly
will
will not sweep Toronto. I can assure you of that.
Ooh, that'd be an interesting bet.
That would be an interesting bet that I would take because Toronto will win at home.
But I think Toronto has enough pride
if you think it's going 7, I would bet you that it goes no more than 5.
I'd take that right now.
All right, talk to me.
You're saying, Ryan, you are going to bet that Toronto wins 2 games off Philly.
Yes.
No Scotty Barnes, a hurt Gary Trent. I don't even care about Thaddeus Young, but the other 2 are important.
Yeah, no.
Come on.
Talk to me afterwards, right?
Okay.
Ryan,
yeah. No, look, we'll wrap this up here.
Trevor
is furious.
All right. Well, quickly. What do we see going on in the rest of the East?
Oh, in the rest of the East, look, it's gonna be I want to say it's Milwaukee, Miami, but like my gut tells me it's Philly and Milwaukee, but like I don't want it to be. I want it to be Miami, but I think it's going to be Philly, Milwaukee.
Don't sleep on Boston. Boston has the home court against Milwaukee. They play excellent defense. They might get Robert Williams back. I think they can beat Milwaukee. I'm not going to predict that on this podcast, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Boston beat Milwaukee. But yeah, it's going to be Philly, Milwaukee.
And Milwaukee will win that in 6 max. They'll win.
Well, they would win that series. I couldn't tell you how many games it would go, but I would pick Milwaukee to come out of the East against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to agree. I got Milwaukee and Philly. Although I just want to say it would be great to see for the 3rd year in a row, the Heat and the Bucks go up against each other, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals. And because I believe Miami built their team this offseason thinking, how do we beat the Bucks? I think they added great veterans in Dedmon. They picked up PJ Tucker straight from the Bucks, who I think is an underrated but great addition and will be great on the defensive side of the ball if that series ends up happening. I would love to see that. I'd also love to see Philly. I'd also love to see James Harden against the Nets. That would be amazing.
100%.
I think there are so many different possibilities for this Eastern Conference that
the East is very
forward
tricky
to almost any of them.
Can we go back to the West real quick? I know we talked about the first round in the West, but let's go back to the West. Right. Who do we got? It's easy. It's going to be a Suns Warriors Western Conference Finals, but I want to ask you guys, is Memphis in any real trouble after watching that game 1? Because we all predicted Memphis.
No.
Eden and I said Memphis in 5. Memphis
what did I say?
Loses game 1. Ryan said Memphis in 7, I believe. Memphis loses game 1, loses home court. Is Memphis in any real trouble in this series? Go ahead.
Jack? You don't think so?
No, they're not. I think this is an inexperienced team, and that's going to give them some struggle at some times. But I also think Minnesota's inexperienced. I think they got great games from 2 of their big 3 in game 1. I expect Memphis to come out ready for game 2. They'll split and they'll head to Minnesota. It will probably end up going more than 5 like I originally predicted, but I still think Memphis is the favorite in this series and will find a way to regain control in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Look, Trevor, sorry, I'm just going to say something real quick. Look, I think recency bias is a thing. I think that, people are like, oh, Minnesota can win this series. Whoa, like they could do it in 6. Like, let's not forget. Memphis is really good. But yeah, I do think they're in trouble. Like Minnesota, I said it was going to go the distance, and I stand by that. Like it's looking good. I think Memphis is the better team overall. Ja will step up. Superstars always do. And I think their supporting cast is deeper and more talented. But Minnesota's a decent team, and their crowd's going to be fired up in Minnesota. This game tonight for Memphis is going to be big. They need to come out and win this. They need to win this game. Like you're down 0-2 going to Minnesota.
100%.
Then I would think Minnesota's the favorite to win the series. Like I would. But as of now, Memphis is in 7 is looking good, I think. It's going to be close. They should be nervous. They are in danger. But I'm still confident, that they'll pull it out because they are the more talented and better team.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan with another crazy take that Memphis going down 0-2 and then having to go on the road would mean trouble. That's just I would have never thought of something like that.
Look, I'm the one that said Memphis in 7 before the series started. So
by the way,
my prediction's better.
Does anyone know the last time a 7 seed beat a 2 in the NBA playoffs?
I don't.
I just looked it up. This says 88-89. It doesn't say that it's the most recent one. But it'd be really interesting if it was 88-89 and we could potentially have 2 7 seeds push the 2 seeds.
Be crazy.
In both of these.
If only Anthony Davis didn't get hurt last year. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, maybe they wouldn't be in Cancun right now.
yeah, exactly.
They beat us. They beat us there.
I will
year.
say,
I like it.
I need to make a quick comment on Minnesota Memphis. I'm actually going to side. I'm going to side with Ryan, and I know I've been kind of on Ryan's ass this entire podcast. I think Memphis is in some trouble, and I think inside the NBA, my man Shaq, he said it. And I said it on the when we talked about the Western Conference. Memphis hasn't had to face any real adversity, right? Like they've always been playing with house money. Even when they went to the playoffs last year, there was no expectation on this team. Heading into this season, there was some expectation, but there wasn't any championship expectation surrounding this Memphis Grizzlies team. All of a sudden, you're seeing guys like Skip Bayless, who he doesn't know much about sports anyways, Kendrick Perkins, picking this Memphis team to go to the finals. And now Memphis, as an inexperienced team, has a lot of championship expectation and pressure on their shoulders. How are they going to handle that? Minnesota is playing with house money. They're Memphis, but they're just playing with house money. And Minnesota comes out, steals game 1 on the road. I think that sends a message. And I don't want to say Memphis is in danger of losing, but I want to say that this is going to be a much tougher series than I thought it would be. And I'm almost with Ryan. I think this could go the distance. I'm going to say I'm going to change my prediction to Memphis in 6 after seeing game 1. I do think the Grizzlies will come out and win tonight. I think they're going to split in Minnesota, and then I think ultimately Memphis's depth will take them over the hump in games 5 and 6. But if I'm a Grizzlies fan, I am really nervous because if I get by Minnesota, I'm getting my ass swept by the Golden State Warriors in the next round. So there's a clock on this Memphis team, right? It's going to strike midnight in a few weeks' time, but I think they'll get by Minnesota, but it's not going to be easy.
Also, the last time a 7 seed beat a 2, it's happened 5 times in history. The last time was 12 years ago when the Spurs beat the Dallas Mavericks in 2010. The last time.
Been a while.
Wasn't that the year the Mavericks
I still feel
won it?
confident in this 2 seed. The other 2
Maybe
seed I don't feel as confident in.
Yeah, it was 2011. Sure.
2011.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting how good the 7 seeds are this year. And I also think it's very interesting that the 8 seeds would have been really good this year if the Clippers would have won. I think that's an interesting little thing to note as well, that the NBA in general is a lot deeper of a league than it was probably 5 years ago.
I'd say it's more balanced than it's
more
ever
balanced.
been.
Yeah, more balanced.
Yeah.
There's no super teams. There's a lot of teams with 2 all-stars, but there's no real super team, right? The Warriors had 3 all-stars and Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter, which might be
Trevor hates it.
anyways. I gotta stay focused, right?
Hey, was Devin Booker an all-star starter? Oh, sorry.
All right, whatever.
Anyway,
the Warriors were the only team with 3 all-stars this year, so it's like it's a very balanced. There's a lot of teams that have a lot of good players, and I think there's a lot of teams that believe they can win their series right now, and I think that's interesting. Even the underdogs.
All right, who wins the NBA championship?
Oh, I was gonna say who comes out of the West, but yeah, sure.
I feel like we said that.
Oh, maybe we
did.
We? Yeah,
did we? I feel like
we probably. Yeah.
Trevor and I have the Suns. Ryan has the Warriors, I assume.
Yep.
So do we all have the Bucks making it out of the East?
Unfortunately,
I got the Suns beating the Bucks and getting their revenge.
Oh, Trevor, what do you have? You agree with that?
We don't get respect. We don't get validation. But we will after we beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals this year. Monty Williams, Coach of the Year as well. I'm going Suns in 6 in the finals. Or did I say Suns in 7? I'm going to go Suns in 6 because fuck the Bucks.
And look, honestly, I think it's too hard to repeat. I think the Warriors get back and win it all. I think they get over the finish line. I think they beat the Bucks in 6 games this year. Look, the Bucks will put up a fight, but I think the Warriors will win it all.
Wow.
Look, that death lineup's too good. They stay healthy. They're the best team in the league. And I don't even think it's super close. Trevor doesn't like to hear this. But when Jordan Poole hits a 3 over Chris Paul, in the Western Conference Finals, Game 6 to win and go to the finals, you'll know who the best team in the league is. But look, until that time, we'll see what happens. The Suns Warriors Western Conference Finals, which it looks like will happen, will be exciting, will be fun, and the playoffs will be fun. So we'll be back next week to talk more NBA playoffs. We're gonna have some more series to talk about. We'll see what these series are looking like. And we'll see if the Suns can continue to roll the 35-win Pelicans, which they should. So, look, I hope everyone
36,
enjoyed.
36.
And, 36, my bad. And, we'll be back next week with more talk on the NBA and maybe a little NFL draft preview. But, until next week, hope everyone enjoys.
Go Suns.